Hi everyone, another day, another late start today. I put a guide coat, a black guide coat on the firewall last night, let it dry overnight so I could come out this afternoon and hit it with my third sheet sander, just to see where all the highs and lows were and see how badly warped or buckled the firewall is. And a little bit surprised actually. It's not as bad as I thought it was. So I'll give you a quick look. So considering the amount of heat that's gone in there and that there's been a patch panel put in there, and you know, I've welded up probably 20 holes in that section alone. Excuse me, dust. It's not too bad. You know, I can still do a little bit of tapping with a hammer and dolly, and the rest of it, you know, as I said, there's going to be some stainless steel there in that centerpiece. You know, it's not going right. It's not going right around the whole thing, because obviously this reinforcement bar will get in the way, and it's going to be a pain in the ass to cut out holes for this and da 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 da. So we're just going to keep it inside this line here and straight across here, just to give a little bit of a mirrored effect to the engine, just to help it sort of, you know, stand out a little bit more. So it's going to be simple, and I've got a piece which is an old offcut from when I did the Chevy firewall. The place that I took it to cut the stainless steel that I tongue-tied today. Sorry guys. The stainless steel laser cutting place that I took the polished stainless steel to fucked up 3 times. I took them a template and I said cut it to this. So the first time they cut it out of this big sheet, which cost me hundreds of dollars to buy this sheet, they cut it out backwards. One side obviously has plastic on it, which will be your shiny side, which you want on the outside. Well, they loaded the sheet into the machine upside down, so they wasted that. So I thought, alright, they made one mistake, let them do it again. So rather than scan my template, they decided to put it into the computer and start squaring up all the edges and straight lines and everything like that. Now that's not going to work on an original steel body car. You know, they're all hand built and they're not symmetrical. Left side is not the same as the right side. So they cut this template out. I bring the stainless steel out after they played with my template on their computer, and I go to fit it up against the firewall. Doesn't fit within the body lines, you know. So I take it back and explain. I took photos of it, and I showed them photos of it and explained to them that they've done something wrong. And they said, "Oh yeah, we you know, we scanned your template and we loaded it into the computer. We straightened up all the lines." And I said, "Well, that's not what I asked you to do." So there goes 2 pieces. Finally, the third piece, they did exactly what I asked them to do. So the piece that's on it now is the piece they got right, but they've left me with stuffle material, which should have been enough to do this firewall. I have to pull what I've got left out of the shed just to make sure that I do have enough. But yeah, you would think after they cocked up they'd compensate me for that sheet metal. Nah. So I guess what, I never went back there again. You learn your lessons. But yeah, no, surprised with the firewall, you know. So I'm going to keep plugging along and see how far I get today, guys. Cheers. Okay guys, been still having a bit of a bash this afternoon. That's pretty much all I've done on the truck. I'll give you a look at it, see if you can pick anything that's different from the earlier footage. So I've been doing a bit of knocking and a bit more sanding, and there seems to be a lot less low spots now in it. It's actually starting to come up quite good. Most of the low spots are where I welded all those holes in, whether they were small holes or whether they were the 1-inch holes that I put the plates into. They seem to have created a lot of lows, so I'm still working on them. I'm getting there slowly. But yeah, that's come up a lot better than it was when I started this morning, and I've only been on it for about an hour, so and as I said, I'm not starting the bodywork yet. Contradiction. But yeah, that's, you know, it's accessible, and why not? So starting to come up alright. There's always going to be a little low here, that plate that I welded in. I don't know what happened. If you remember in the video, I said, oh, there's a little bit of a gap there. I cut the piece a little bit short. Well, I think when I actually got the tacks on in the first place, I think it might have thrown me a little bit. It might have actually fallen back in on that corner. I'm not really worried. It's not going to be seen because the engine, the head on the engine's going to sit here anyway, about this high. So you're not going to see it. This is down behind the head and the engine block. So it won't be seen, but all the rest of it, I'm going to make sure I do the best job I can do on it and try and get that as flat as possible. This was a real bad spot through here. I've managed to pull a lot of that out, which is good, and it's really flat now around that opening, which is what I wanted to try and do. There was some ups and downs. So yeah, I'll keep plugging away and see where we get to. Cheers, guys. Hi everyone, another day. Just been doing a bit more tinkering on that aircon. It's taken me a little bit longer than I thought. You know, I thought I was going to wrap it up a couple of days ago, but you know, I got to make sure it's right. So what I decided to do whilst I was sort of working on that was decided to make a template for the new console so that I don't go and cock it up like I did with that one. So I hope you can see this, because I know the light's really bad in my videos, but you know, that's just the way it is. I'm sorry. Yeah, so I only have to take that much out of the corner up there to get clearance under that heater box. I don't know if you can see there, it's probably about, I don't know what that is, about 1.5 inch gap. And that all changed, as I said, that all changed when they decided to put that bulkhead through the firewall. So everything moved forward. And I'd already cut the console. So, yeah. But what I'm going to do is on this side and the other side, where I still have gaps here, where you can see that frame, what I'm going to do, and I'm actually good at this. I'm good at joining stuff and making it almost look seamless. So what I'm going to do is eventually I will, not sacrifice this console, but I will sacrifice that console, and I will actually put a piece in here to completely fill that side in, and the same on this side. I'll give you a look at the other side, because that hasn't been touched yet. I didn't really need to touch that, but as you can see, we've got a bit of a gap there. But we've got this lip here, this little tab, and this actually sits back behind the face. So that's like a perfect point in which to glue to. It's perfect. But yeah, I'll fill all this, and this will all come up here and across the top here, and you won't even know. You won't even know that console's like that. But you know, most things when you're sitting in the seats, you don't see that anyway. But you know, if I can fix it, I will. This panel, I've got it in. I welded a couple little tabs on the side, as I said I was going to do, and I put some screws in there, and that's all working nice now. As you can see, cable's all moving, and I've only got 4 positions now on the unit, opposed to 5, because as you know, the dash vents and the windscreen vents are using that same ducting chamber, so we don't actually need a separate one for the screen. So the cable, the way the cable is, if the housing of the cable was cut back a bit further, I could get all 5 positions on this switch panel. But it just happens that this cable, for what it was set up for, I'll try and show you. So that's it, the first stage, and that's how much cable we got. So if I move it stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, that's all I need. So yeah, we don't actually need this one. So I'm going to try and fade that out somehow. I don't know how I'm going to get it off, but I'm going to try and block that over. So I only need those 4 there, those 4 selectors, and this one doubles as this one too. Be nice if I could actually put this and this together, but I can't. But yeah, that's perfect. It's going to do exactly what I want. So it's all coming together. It's been a little bit slower than I thought. I had a little bit of a problem yesterday. I don't know if you can see it. There's a white like linkage here. The bottom snapped off it. I was playing around with it without the cable being connected, and I snapped it. So I had to epoxy that back together, and I'm going to the wreckers again tomorrow, the salvage yard, and I'll grab 2 of them. I'll put them in my secret compartment in my bag and keep them for spares. Not that I think I'm going to have to snap another one. I think it was just due to me being, I don't know. I didn't think I was rough with it, but I think the fact is it broke. So, so yeah, I'm going to grab another one of them. Now, one other thing I thought I'd take a look at today is to make sure that my gauge cluster fitted. Now, as I've said in the past, all my original gauges need to be converted to 12 volt and probably refurbished just to get them to look cleaner. It doesn't bother me. I think there's about 2 guys. It's one place in Victoria, and there's a guy in New South Wales that refurbishes old gauge sets, gets them looking like the day they come out of the factory. But it's all going to depend on money too, you know. I'm not going to pay these guys thousands of dollars to refurbish my clocks when I can go and buy a set of clocks delivered from the States with all the sender units and everything for $300. I'd rather just keep the original unit as an ornamental piece. But what I will do is I will stick with the same sort of layout. I'll just make a new fascia panel to go in there, and I'll try and stick with the 3 gauges if I can. But that's my original gauge set. So it consists of 5 gauges, as you can see. You've got the oil, the amps, the speedo, the temp, and the fuel. I was never going to run a Rev Taco in here because it's only a 302 Cleveland. You know, they're not a high revving engine, they're more of a torquey engine. They're always a good engine for towing. Your 351 was more your performance engine. I don't care about the revs. You know, it's automatic. You know, I don't need to know where to change gear. It just does it. So, So I thought I'd sit that in today just to see and make sure that with the Speedo I had enough clearance behind it with the bar. I checked it years ago, but you know, a lot of things have happened since then. The aircon heater unit's gone in, and I've had to sort of play around with the console and everything. I couldn't get the console to sit flat up against the dash once I put the tabs in for that that control unit, because the tabs I've used are very flat. The plastic tabs that were on the Festiva dash pad or dash plastic moulding around the console were a lot fatter, and this console probably didn't have as much lean back as it's got now. So it turns out it wasn't going to really mate up well. There's about a 1 millimeter gap right along the bottom of the control unit, between the control unit and the actual console. You can't pick it. If I didn't tell you, you wouldn't know. But I know it's there because I've had to set it up. It doesn't bother me, to be honest. I really don't care. I'm just glad that it's in now. But, you know, I've had to play around with all these things, and I've had to modify a few things that were a little bit different to the way they originally were in the Festiva. So, you know, I'm happy with the way it's come up, you know. As I said, this is a budget build. It's not $1 million car, so yeah, I think it's come up really good. I'll climb back in here. I've actually pulled a muscle in my back today, saving one of my budgies. Believe it or not, little bugger went for a fly through the house, which he's allowed to do, but because I clipped his wings a couple of months ago, he still hasn't got full flight capability, and the poor little bugger ended up landing in the rinsing sink. I'd done the dishes about an hour before. I hadn't drained the sinks yet, and he landed in the clean water sink, so the rinsing sink, and the water was still warm, and I could hear this flapping, and I didn't know what the hell it was, and I knew it was him, but I just didn't know what it was. I went out there. He's fighting to keep his head above water, and yeah, got him out, got the hairdryer out. He sat on my arm and he let me blow dry him. He loved it, absolutely loved it, because it's freezing cold here at the moment. It's winter in Melbourne, so yeah. But yeah, talk about you know, being affectionate. He loved it, you know. He had no intentions of going anywhere. But anyway, back onto the truck. As I said the other day, this mounting tab here off the console, I cut it down. And it mounts a little bit further in now. So eventually, when I do fill all this gap here, I'm hoping that bracket will be filled. Another chance, what's the word I'm looking for? I said the phrase the other day. Like a coincidental chance is in this dash panel, right in the center here, under this bottom lip, there happens to be a hole. On the top of this console, there happens to be like a tab, and I couldn't get this thing to sit up there and stay there. Well, guess what? The two line up, don't they? So, yep, screwed straight through the hole in the return on the dash and into the tab on the top, and I've got virtually no gap there. That's absolutely perfect. It's turned out really, really well. So I'm wrapped there. So we're getting there, guys. What am I looking at now? I've got to make a couple of calls. There's a friend of mine who's a fitter and turner, but he also has a degree in engineering. It's not Mike, it's another guy. Poor bugger's off work at the moment. He's got cancer. He's had 3 tumours removed over the last couple of years, 2 years, and they've said to him that they can't remove the tumour if it comes back now. and in the operation they must have nicked a nerve as well, and it's sort of paralysed his leg partly, so he's off work now, but he's bored. So my dad's good friends with him too, so he's gonna actually pick him up next week and bring him down to my place. He just wants to see how far I got with the truck, because he did help me with some of the chassis fabrication on the front in the very beginning before Mike got involved in it. And he's also did the steering shaft for me because he has a lathe at home. So yeah, he's got an interest in the truck too, and he wants to see how far it's come along and what I've done. And yeah, I'm going to ask him if he's got a 64 or 65 millimeter hole saw, metal hole saw, so I can cut these vents out here in the dashboard for the aircon unit, heater unit. So he's coming down, I think, next Thursday. So hopefully by next Thursday I'll have those vents in. The ducting should turn up from Hong Kong next week as well, so it's probably, the timing's good for both. Nothing worse than being able to install one bit and then not being able to finish off the next. So yeah, they turn up. If the two things turn up, they turn up. If he hasn't got one, I'll just simply go buy one. I'm just trying to, I'm only ever going to use this hole saw once, so because this is the last hot rod build I ever do. After this, it's a bike, and I'm going to restore my coupe as well, my XB coupe. So there's no more hot rods. This is the last one, so I'm never going to need a 64 millimeter metal hole saw again. So if I can borrow one, it'll save me some money. So that's it for now, guys. Oh god, I'm sore. Haven't done anything else on the truck that I haven't showed you in the last couple of days. Maybe just I did run some weld across here. This split was bad here, and because you can hear it squeaking, the cab's moving so much from me working on the cowl, I decided to weld that up. Welded it up from the back, welded it up from the front. It's not pretty, but I have to hold it together. If it completely snaps off, I'm in the shit. So same with this one. This was split right through here. You can still see a bit of a split there in the lead. I didn't go that far back. I just welded it up here to sort of hold it together. And it doesn't look all the best from the back there. I haven't ground it. I didn't want to grind it. I wanted to try and leave as much weld on it as I can at this stage. This one I just took sort of the top off it, but I still left it pretty chunky. I've got to be really, really delicate with it. I don't know if you can see this in the camera, but there's a weld seam that runs down there. There's a weld seam that runs down there. So that's how they joined the cabin. So yeah, they actually welded this section in here, and that's where the split has started. It started on this seam here. This one I'm lucky there's no split here. So yeah, quite lucky there. This side is a little harder to see, but I can see one seam there, and the other seam, no, I can't even pick it, guys. I don't know whether it was just a single cut on this side or whether there is another underneath all this surface rust. There is another seam there, but as I said, it's hard to know how they put this truck together. Whoops. Well, that goes to show how strong that console is. Didn't even move. Yeah, I don't know how they put the truck together. Every day I find something new on it. Nails here, nails there, screws. Two pieces on one side, one piece on another. Another bit I had to weld up was this. This split seemed like it was growing. It was growing along this this ledge here, this, whatever we want to call it, water gutter edge, or I don't know what you call it, a brow or whatever. So as rough as it is, it's holding it together. Had a lot of issues. I tried to grind out as much of the lead as I could, and it was just dripping all over the floor. but I got out all the lead that I needed to be able to weld this up, and this is all solid now. I've got good penetration from the inside as well. Plenty of weld did go through the crack because it was an open crack, so the weld was able to penetrate through there. And all I did is I just used a bit of if I can find it, it's around here somewhere. I used a bit of aluminium tube just to put on the back of it so that I wouldn't blow holes in the metal. I believe copper. I think copper is a good one. I think Eastwood do like these copper backing plates that you can use on sheet metal so you don't blow holes in it. But as you can see, I just used that tube there because the weld won't stick to the alloy. So that works just as good. It stops you blowing holes in your sheet metal, and especially when it's this fragile and thin, because of all the bashing and flattening out they did, and then all the lead filling they put over the top. Some areas are so thin that a piece of paper sticker. I've got to be real careful. I just got to be real careful. So yeah, not much else to tell. What else? All my parts that are coming. Contacted the guy that built the rear guards for me in far north Queensland. He was supposed to send them not last Thursday, but the Thursday before. Well, that didn't happen. I received a email from the courier service the freight company that's bringing them down, and it turns out that they picked them up Thursday just gone, so like 5 days ago, not 13 days ago, like they were supposed to. So I'm not going to see those fenders until next week. All the other stuff's on its way. I got emails regarding all that, my window regulators, my 48-inch braided stainless steel radiator hose with the clamps, the sleeves that go over the end, so that's on its way. The chevron tail lights, all those 3 items are coming from the same supplier in the States, so they're all coming together, they're on their way. And I ordered a set of bear claw locks, but I'm arguing the freight price on it because it's absolutely ridiculous what they've charged me for freight, when you consider that they'll actually sit in the palm of your hand, so they'll go into a satchel. Now, they were $5 more expensive than sending 2 window regulators with full wiring harness, switches and everything else you needed for the setup, for the doors. Now you think about the size of the box for that and the weight of those compared to 2 little bear claw locks. They charged me $5 more, so I'm questioning that. Not for the reason of being a tight ass, but it doesn't make sense. If you're going on weight and volume, those bear claw locks are tiny. There's no way that should have cost me 43 Australian dollars to get 2 bear claw locks sent over from the States. And yeah, it's ridiculous. I could have bought them cheaper here from a seller in Queensland. So I've left that one with eBay because they've got this global parcel system thing now where it automatically calculates prices based on weight and volume and stuff like that, and a lot of the sellers are using it. So I've questioned it, which I think I'm entitled to do. I'm going to see what the response is on that. What other news have I got for you? I haven't fitted those boot poppers yet. Went to a rod run on Saturday. The club Kingpins holds it. They call it Rats, Tats and Pinups. They hold one every month at awesome venues, absolutely awesome venues. The amount of cars that were there on the weekend was incredible. What a magnificent show. And we happened to have a day, it was 16 degrees Celsius and the sun was out. There was no cloud, well, there was clouds in the sky in the afternoon, but it started out as a really clear day, really good. So I took the Chevy. But yeah, I hadn't had time to put the boot poppers in, not that it matters. So I'll get around to doing those. I've got all winter to do them, so, you know, yeah, all's good. I'm just having a bit of a walk around at the moment. I'm trying to loosen up that pinched nerve in my back. So, anyway, guys, I'm going to leave it here for now because I don't think there's anything else I can show you. And I'm even getting stuck to know what to do now, because I really wanted to get that dashboard finished. I wanted to get those vents in and the ducting in, but I've got to wait another week, so I'm screwed there. So yeah, I'm going to sit down with my beer or cider. I drink cider, alcoholic cider, so yeah. I like it. Don't care if you don't. You can drink what you want. But yeah, I'll sit down with me pen and paper and have a little bit of a think about what I'm going to do. I know this week I'm going to take that gauge cluster to a place close to my home in a suburb called Heidelberg, and a place by the name of Howard Instruments, and I'm going to see what Howard Instruments say and whether it's a reconditioning refurbishment job that they can do. I also have the name of 2 other people, as I said earlier. I can get quotes off them too. I'll see what the best alternative is, because I'm not going to spend $1 squillion on gauges. I can buy gauges that look very much the period of this truck with the cream faces and the black needles and the white faces. So yeah, as I said, $200 and something from the States for the gauges I want. That's US, but still it might end up being a lot cheaper than getting these ones refurbished. So yeah, I'll make a trip down there this week. Wreckers tomorrow. Got to get a couple of little things and make my list out and see where we go from there. One thing I have to do this week is I have to finalise. I'm hoping that this fluoro tube doesn't put up too much glare, but I've got to finalise this cutout on the template. I've got to make sure it's right, and I'm going to have to go down and bug Mike on a Friday. I can only if it's a social visit, I can only catch up with him in the factory on a Friday after 2:30. And most of the work that he does for me is social. It's friends, mates rates, and it's mates rates. So I don't want his boss getting on his back. So I'll finalise this. I'll take photos. I'll take my laptop down. I'll let him have a good look at what I'm trying to do. I'll take the old cutout pieces, because then he can lay that on a bench and he can actually see what the opening was like on it. And we'll try and come up with, we'll try and cut out a graft to go in there, and because that's all going to need to be welded. That's all going to need to be welded into here, prior to me putting all the framework back in, because as I said, when all this has to get welded to the cowl, and that'll get spotted from the inside, and then the frame just slips back in. The frame just slips back in then. So I've got to get this windscreen sorted out. This is going to be, besides the doors, and the doors are only tricky because I've never done doors before with window regulators and stuff in them. So they're very tricky for me. But this windscreen's also going to be very tricky to try and get it all grafted in. Mike might suggest doing it in 2 pieces. I don't know. I'd love him to come down and take a look, but he doesn't have a driver's license. I could always go pick him up and bring him down, but we just got to find a mutual time to do it, that's all. Okay guys, I'm going to leave it here because I've been rambling on for 26.5 minutes, and yeah, thanks for sticking with me, guys. There's a couple of people too that I like to thank, but I'm going to thank them in the next vid, because I want to make sure I get their sites correct as well, because you should go check them out. These 3 guys have inspired me over the last 2 years to get started back on this truck, and I can't thank them enough. I've personally spoken to all of them via email, and they seem like good blokes. So cheers, guys. I'll definitely give them a shout out in the next vid. Hi everyone. Still the same day, but it's just night time now. Just been plugging away at bits and pieces, and I haven't really done a whole lot today. I've had some other hassles I've had to take care of, but I got some stuff done, and sort of cut a template out for this, so I know how much I have to cut out of there. So I had to make myself a little note because I sort of cocked it up here at the top a bit, but I only have to take that little bit out compared to that big chunk over there that I took out. So that fits very nicely in around that surround up there. So I've done that one, and I've just finished off this template. So that's how that'll look when it's all finished. Well, you get the idea anyway. That's the template. So piece of this filler piece will get cut out of that console, and that will get glued in, and yeah, it should look alright then. Look like it's finished. So yeah, all good. And that's about all I've done since this afternoon. Made a few lists and had a few beers, and that's about it, guys. So yeah, I'll do a little bit more tomorrow. As I said, I've got to go to the motor wreckers, the salvage yard, pick up a few things, and then we'll pick up from there. I really don't know at this point in time where I'm going to go next. I'll probably end up ripping out all the dash and the steering column and AC again, fit up that cowl vent. Got to get some split pins for it. As always with everything in life, I'm one short, so I'll pick up some of those, and yeah, I'll put the cowl vent back in, and I'll modify the handle and try and get that working too. So yeah, in the side here, my idea is, obviously I'm going to run a bar out through here off the handle so I can operate it. So what I'll do is I'll work out what the action is on it, and I will cut a slot in there for the handle to slip into. And what I'm thinking is now not to actually weld the handle on, but to screw the round handle into the original flat bar on the cowl vent. So that way, if I ever want to remove the console, I can unscrew the bar, and then it just makes it easier for the console to come out. So that's what I'm thinking of doing, guys. Cutting that bar off short, drill a hole in it, tap it, and then screw a shaft in, and yeah, just for easy access. So I'll call it a night now. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Cheers.